Hello, everybody.
Hey.
All right, then. There we go with that.
Yeah. So it's just to let you know, most likely about quarter to 10, about an hour and 45 minutes basically into the show. I will have to go because I'm supposed to be being interviewed at 10 o'clock my time on somebody
Okay.
else's show.
So that's like 10 o'clock here, so 7 o'clock my time, which should be
It's a,
fine because we'll probably be wrapping up right about because I've
yeah.
been trying to I'm still a little over on my slated hours, so I was but
Yeah. I just thought I'd let you know in advance. I would have let you know before we started the stream, but since you arrived like 30 seconds before we started,
yeah, I know, and it's like it's kind of hard because before, of course, during the week, when RJ was going every day, right?
yeah,
I would usually just, I'd kill the time by watching portions of his stream and doing my usual like spins and stuff like that. But with him gone now, it's like, okay, well, what do I do? Sometimes I might go on other, I might go watch other people like Lorenzo stream unless I fall behind, which I've been falling behind a bit lately.
yeah.
But it's so now we're gonna give people at least a few minutes to see like Metal and everybody.
Yeah. And of course, next week I may or may not be able to join the panel because I will be in LA.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna try to get over there too. I've already
that'll be
in. Go over there Saturday to see you. Just that one day that
Yeah, it's the con, and then I was gonna say I know Dillard would be more than welcome you at the pool party if you could get there, but I'm not sure whether you can or not.
The pool party, is that going to be happening after the con, or is that going to be happening on Sunday?
Yeah, that's going to be happening on the Sunday, but then again, that might interfere with your show. So,
well, yeah, I probably wouldn't go because you said Dillard lives out in San Bernardino, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's where he said.
Yeah, that's a little far for me. So
Jerpa Valley, I think he said. It says on his, from what I know.
Yeah,
Riverside area.
Yeah, it's where based on what you told me where he lives, it'd be too far for me to get to in a reasonable amount of time. So, yeah. So, anyways,
but it'll be good to see you.
Metal. Sorry about that, Metal. I saw you were there. It's just that I was on the other screen. I'm kind of tagging a little behind here, just because of the fact, I was caught up doing some other things.
Well,
hey,
yeah, you must have been running behind. I think I showed up shortly after you, hearing you came in 30 seconds before the start, because I was also here before you started.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things, it's like, how you have those times when you got maybe you have two major things that you do or two things on your schedule, and then there's like that little downtime in between, right? Sometimes, and you figure out, okay, well, what do I do with myself between these two things, right?
Because you don't want to really do anything that's going to take much time in between, because otherwise,
But at the same time, you want to still do something that's going to keep you mentally occupied too. It's like you don't want to just sit there drain, because then I don't want to come into the show all like.
But I was going to ask.
I do calisthenics, because I can just stop those at any time.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask Metal. You got my Discord message for the.
Oh yeah, I did. I still don't know if I will be able to or not, but I'll try.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to be there for a few hours, so it's like.
Yeah.
And I've already planned on doing a little bit of live streaming while there, so I've set up. I set up for the 4 going. I should set up for the 4 coming back too, but I wasn't sure whether I should wait till I'm at Dillard's to try and do that or do it here.
And thank you guys for the likes and shares, by the way. I do appreciate that. Hopefully, we can get some more people. Hopefully, Tim will join us. Even though I know
Yeah,
he's
well,
still over on.
I saw Tim still on Rex's, so.
Yeah.
But hopefully he'll come in to do a little bit of information on your guys' stuff for Friday. I
Yeah.
put it on. I watched for a couple minutes, and
Yeah, I did know that this week I was noticing when I was looking at my analytics, I did notice that I think more recently it does seem like people are watching it, after the fact.
yeah. Well, a lot of times I'll admit that I don't watch. I put it on and I'm like walk away, do something else or whatever, or I go to bed or something like that.
Well,
especially this last week.
Yeah,
so
admittedly, there wasn't as much. Of the 5 features we read, there was only one that was really "quote unquote" a superhero feature, and that was Bob Phantom. The other, you had 3 of them that were kind of like detective crime features, and then one that was a military feature. And of course, if you did watch some of it, you probably heard Tim basically pointing out, yeah, this is same old, kind of thing,
Yeah.
But,
it is what it is for its time. And actually, shortly after you got off Rex's channel, we talked a little bit about anthologies, and some, a lot of people say
I was just getting hungry, so
yeah.
I went up, grabbed myself some bacon jerky and a soda, and then came home, put on.
But it's said that most of the time, anthologies don't work, and I know Metal's probably heard that too before. But the thing is, a lot of times that they do them on the same, they do a theme nowadays. And I would say maybe we should go back to more like the original with the anthologies, where there was a whole bunch of different stories.
Yeah, I mean, if I had known you guys would have got into that, I would have probably stuck around.
Yeah.
Full well, I could probably contribute to that conversation.
I can tell you why in our space anthologies don't work. It has nothing to do with the themes.
No.
It has to do with the people behind them, right? So, like in the crowdfunding or independent sphere, the benefit to doing an anthology is that you can ride off of the clout of everyone involved in the anthology, right? But if the one that Dillard tried to do is any sign, and I've heard similar things from other people that tried to do anthologies, you basically, the person who put the anthology together and maybe one other person involved was trying to promote it, and then everybody else involved that you're even trying to get like them to help promote and clout and make the book big, just kind of let it do its own thing and never promoted it or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of what made the anthologies in the Golden Age work, I know RJ and I have talked about this a little bit too, and I probably talked about it with you guys before too, is that a lot of the anthologies back in the Golden Age were kind of a hodgepodge of everything. Granted, they did, like, after a while, like, very early on, they were just basically, newspaper reprints, right? You had a little bit of everything. You had action, adventure, you had humor, you had slice of life, and a little bit of everything. Everything was represented. And then, of course, when Action Comics was introduced, and the superhero genre, you did start getting some more themed anthologies where, but even for example, in action, that was still a mix of stuff. Look at some of the characters in some of those, you had Superman as the lead feature, who was a superhero. You had Zatara, who was a stage magician adventurer, sorcerer, stage magician adventurer. You had Tex Thompson, who I've used the term describe characters like Tex Thompson as Playboy adventures. These are the guys, and you could argue to a certain extent. Well, maybe not as much. They actually would don superhero costumes, but you would kind of say that like Bruce Wayne and Wesley Dodds are in that same category. These are guys who act, even though in their case they're more superheroes. But you have these guys. I guess another guy who you could be considered a Playboy adventurer would be like Barry O'Neill. Okay, they're the guys who seem to have, come from some form of money or whatever, and it's one of those things. They're just so rich, they don't know what to do themselves. So hey, why not? Let's go out. Let's go out on an adventure. Let's go out and see if we can find a lost city of gold, or go out and see if we can capture kidnappers or what have you.
Yeah, and that's sort of what I suggested. Although the conversation did not last long, I'll admit. But it was just I threw it out there, like, and that's almost about basically where it ended, But I just thought I'd half bring it up, with you haven't been on there.
I
really ties in.
I'd known you guys would have got into that because full well I would have probably had quite a bit to say on it.
Yeah, well, we didn't know that we were going to get into it.
It's probably a good thing too, because probably another, aside from getting hungry, I didn't want to let necessarily just completely talk myself out, if you get what I mean. Spending, I was there for what, about 45 minutes or so, I guess.
But it was nice. Time to get on too. Mike Barron ended up coming in. So
yeah. So let's see, where are we at now? We're at 11 minutes in, 11 and a half minutes in. So, and we're still waiting to see if anybody shows up.
But like Metal was saying, a lot of times they don't work in our circles is because, indies, unfortunately, there's only one or two end up promoting out of the people, And then,
the only one I can think of that did remotely well, suffered in their first try because of reputation, and then stopped doing it because of risk management, I guess. But was Secret Comics Presents, and that one worked because there was literally only one artist on the whole thing and one writer, right, doing the different stories. And that was Nasser and Jason Robinson.
Well, and another one that
I haven't heard that name in a while, Nasser.
Well, that was the problem, right? So that one suffered the first campaign they tried because of Nasser's reputation, right? So they took them 2 campaigns to actually get it going. They actually did okay in the second campaign when it actually went off, but then they never did a follow-up like a Secret Comics Present 2 because Nasser kind of stopped doing comics in general because he can make more money writing books.
Yeah.
I remember Nasser was part of the same crowd of like Testify and JDA and all that.
Not really.
He jumped around different places. I mean, ultimately, was kind of part of EVS's crew until he turned his back on them, and then he tried to go back in, and he's kind of just all over the place.
Yeah. What was I going to say? So, another one that came close for an anthology was Trolls Exposed. They actually funded it. And I was on that.
That one didn't that one do pretty good though?
I don't think it did anywhere close to as good as Nasser's one, but that was basically like one artist for most of it. I had one story in it, and then Chris's wife had a story in it with their daughter doing the art, but everything else was, of course, Chris himself. So, except for 2 stories, it was basically him. But it funded, and it got I don't know, $600 or $700, maybe a bit more.
Yeah.
But again, that was a troll one, so it was themed, and again, why it did, I think, because I promoted it a bit, but there was only 3 people on it, basically, 3-4 people.
Mm-hmm.
So we were all promoting it, but it's not like the other troll one that was out at the time, or Dillert's,
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because if you remember when I mentioned Mark Miller, right, and what he had to say, he was practically begging, quote unquote, comic book legends to go back to DC and Marvel, saying that if they fail, then then indie comics would likely too, which I said I was one of those extras.
Well, I guess obviously I disagree with the statement, but then again, my question is, what is his definition of failing too? Because you know, yeah,
Well, I don't
comics.
think he used the term failing. He just said not succeed. It's like, in
Yeah.
other words, in the indie comic scene needs the mainstream comics scene to be successful in order for the indie scene to be successful.
Well,
Yeah,
I
but
think
you
that's
know,
That was
abjectly
more or less
wrong.
his statement. Huh?
Yeah, I think that's abjectly incorrect, though.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because
Well, I
comics,
don't know. I think you
people.
guys might have even been here when I was going over that article, because that was an article I was doing from
Yeah,
Comics,
because
the interview. That
comics,
interview.
there are people out there that like comics, and they will go and find them, and so if DC or Marvel's not making any, and I sort of put it out there, although a lot of people I think reject it, but it may have been big people doing it, like national periodicals or whatever, but that when the original major ones started, they were indie, although there wasn't such thing as indie comics, but
Yeah.
they were independent stuff. Everybody, you had a whole bunch of companies just throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what stuck, seeing if something made money for them.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking about this as I was, as I'm thinking ahead to, as we finish up 1939, I was just thinking, like, at the end of 39, right? There were 17 comic book companies, and I haven't fully counted how many books they were doing, but I know that they were like, I think it was you had 17 at the end of 39. Was I think at the end of 38 you might have had 10 or 11 at the end of 38, I believe.
Yeah, but even with 17 companies, that means probably a minimum of 17 books, probably more like 30.
Close. I would say close to that, maybe closer to 25. Let's see. There was DC, which had, in terms of monthly books, because DC was one of the first companies to start doing, like the quarterly books, like Superman. But when we're talking just monthly books that they would be publishing like every month. So DC was doing 5. Marvel was already doing 2, even though they had just started. They pretty much were doing 2 already, so that's 7. Archie was doing 2.
There's 9.
Pep Comics had just, well, as MLJ Enterprise, of course, but Pep Comics had just started up the month before and then didn't go in December. But so let's see, 5, 2, that's 7 and 2 is 9. Dell, I think, had like 5 or 6 at that point.
Yeah, so like it's probably even more than 30. It's probably 40 or 50 between them.
So 14. Well, hold on. 14. Then let's see. After Dell, then you had Harvey had 2. So 14 and 2. That's 16.
Yeah, and we're not even through half the companies yet.
Well, some of them though were still only publishing only one book. So,
yeah.
So 16 thus far.
With what? 4 companies?
With five companies at this point. Let's see. DC, Marvel, Archie, Dell, and Harvey. 6.
Okay, 5.
Okay. Centaur was doing, I think, 4 or 5 probably. So that's 21. Okay. David McKay was doing 3, so that's 24. Eastern Color was doing 1, that's 25. So we're probably going to be over 30 at least.
Probably closer to 40.
Yeah, well, we'll see. So that's 25 right there.
And you don't have to do it all right now, Mike. We all know the based on that, we know it's over 30. Somewhere
between was
30
1. Fiction House, I think, had gotten up to 4 by that point because they introduced Fox was at 3. I think on average, it probably was right around 50 then, because on average, I'd say on average, not in total, but on average,
about 3 comics per company.
3 books per company. 3 books per company, because there were a few that still were only doing like one book at that point.
Yeah, but there were some, like you were saying, we're doing 5 or 6 too. So,
so
you know, so you know, like nowadays, you know, well, what is there, like 200 or 300 comics or more out each month? Probably more like a 500, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you know, like 17 independent companies, or you know, for lack of a better way of saying it, just because there wasn't the quote unquote big two back then.
Right, they were still getting going.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that DC wasn't even like. So one of the funny things about that too, the very first company that came into existence in 35 was Eastern Color. Okay, and even by 39, they still were only publishing that one book, Famous Funnies.
Yeah, but you know,
which
they
was
weren't
still,
getting
they were still doing like reprints too. You know.
Yeah, but maybe they didn't want to do anything else, or maybe they couldn't find the talent of people to do anything else.
Well, yeah. Well, when you consider that Will Eisner's shop was working with a bunch of different companies at the time, like not just Fiction House, but also Centaur. As far as I know, you know, they were working for 2 or 3 different companies. So, you know,
yeah. So, you know, it's just, you know, the fact that, oh, indie comics needs, you know, like the big two to survive. No, because, well, it started out as just a bunch of companies just.
Yeah.
Maybe they were owned by quote unquote bigger companies at the time, you know, like, you know, national periodicals or whatever.
Well,
but
that was DC. Well, okay, so the company we know of today as DC was born from 2 separate. You know, they had Detective Comics Incorporated and National Periodicals. Well, actually, no, I think National Periodicals did become. So they had
well, National Periodicals put out the magazine called Detective Comics.
Yeah, let's see. I think at that point, let's see. National may have been doing action and adventure at the time. Detective Comics Inc. was doing. Well, let's see. I think National might have been doing action, adventure, and more fun. Detective Comics Incorporated was doing, of course, Detective Comics, and
yeah, but weren't they still owned by the same? Weren't they still owned by the same people? You know,
generally speaking, yeah, but it's much like what we saw with a few other for example, with the Harvey stuff we're doing, right? Yeah. They're actually by 2 different, you know, because Harvey itself, the company Harvey Comics didn't come into existence till 41, but part of that was because they bought up other properties like Speed Comics, which has Shock Gibson in it. They were being done by Book World Publications. And then Champ Comics, which when Harvey bought them out, they changed Champion Comics, which featured, of course, the Champ, which is a sports type hero. They were being done by Worth Carnahan, who was just doing that one comic. So, you know, when I reference them by how they're known today. Even though a lot of the material is coming from 2 or 3 different publishers, they all got absorbed into one publisher, you know, later. You know, it's kind of like what, you know, some regard you could say, you know, even, like Fawcett and like, for example, Fawcett, Charlton, Quality, they were on their own separate companies. They were also absorbed by DC at one point, but, you know.
Well, I'm looking at Action Comics number 8 here from January 1939. And in the indicia, saying Action Comics produced monthly by Detective Comics Inc.
Yeah. Because the companies went through a bunch of different names, you know.
Yeah, and I'm not seeing anything about the National Periodical. So let me look at a DC one.
Metal, you've been quiet for a while.
I have no input on the current topic.
Well, I have you
See,
a
the
week
thing
from
is,
this. Remember, I have you as a co-host on the 22nd, which will be going over the stuff that went on sale from what would become Speed, our Harvey Comics. So we'll be looking through Speed Comics, and not this Friday, but next Friday. This Friday, of course, going to be covering stuff from Dell with Tim there, and then Rick, I have you next on October 20th. So
yeah, hopefully. The only reason I say hopefully is just because I'm pretty sure I'm going to get October, but I'm not sure where I might not to get October. So if I don't get October, I don't know what the heaven's going on with me.
Well, yeah, well, I'm hoping that you can at least do October, and then at least
well, so am I. So am I.
That one, and then we'll figure out like, because remember, I basically with most of it, with the exception of course of RJ, I pretty much just leapfrog you guys. So
I get that. I'm just saying, like, say I get October here where I am. After October, I don't know where I'm living at the moment. I don't even know whether I'll have internet access on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I don't even know whether I'll be able to have my computer set up anywhere to do anything. So and I'm not right now. I'm not even 100% sure. I've got October to do. I am not 100%.
Well, yeah, because I know your living situation. Because you were saying that you might be getting pushed out even sooner than you initially thought.
I'm getting pushed out sooner than I want it to be. It was by the end of November. I was hoping to leave here, but now it could be the end of October or even the end of this month. Like when I come back from LA, I could possibly have to pack everything within a weekend, have it all out.
And you don't have anybody you can go like your dad or
Well, I could possibly if I really really had to, but like most of my stuff is going to go into storage, and then I might float around from one person to another. Just because I don't want to be too much of a pain to anybody. And there's some people
of course the added problem of the fact that you also will need to be getting like a regular job here too to support yourself too.
Yeah. I'd like to start being able to do like inking work, shall we say, full time.
Mm-hmm.
But I need probably close to like, if I did just comic pages, I'd probably need to be inking like 40 pages a month at my rate.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is possible, mind you, but I need access to the internet to do that too, to get it to people and to get my work.
And I take it that they don't have a situation like, I don't know if your mother was your mother retired or?
Yeah, she was retired.
And I've heard in some cases, sometimes in certain situations, the retirement can be, I don't know, passed down to, but I don't know if
no, because she wasn't getting benefits from a company being retired. She was just getting her Canada pension plan and her old age security, which is government stuff.
Okay, well,
But let's stop being a downer on the audience with my situation.
Yeah, I was just, we're just kind of talking here.
Talking about,
Well, unless you guys want to keep on with the topics we were talking about earlier, or unless there's something else on your mind, if you guys want, maybe we can do an article or two from Bounding into Comics.
Yeah, maybe get something that Metal is a little bit interested in instead of just you and me talking.
The funny thing is,
no, I'm fine.
What was that? What was that?
Metal? Hey, JR.
So no, I'm fine.
Of course you're fine not talking. But there's three of us here. We should all be talking.
What's kind of funny about that too? The other night when Tim was on, I guess he's got his own personal little troll named Gable was coming on, and Gable was giving him a hard time. Apparently, this guy Gable was giving him a bit of a hard time. Oh, well, why don't you let? Oh, there's Jr. Exner. Hey, Jr.
Yeah, I already said hi to him.
Hi, Lord Zenu, Brenda Zena. Long may they reign over us. All right. Yes, as always, if you guys haven't already, if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. We'll try to answer them to the best of our ability. So what we're going to do now, I think I'll pull up the thing I had for Bounding into Comics here. And actually, this one you might be a bit more involved with because this first article is more of an anime one here.
No, not Metal. Timothy Olsen has a troll, JR.
Oh, yeah, I'm already
Metal is a troll.
Yeah, I think I said that so fast that he didn't really clarify. Yeah, we're talking about Tim, not Metal, when it comes to the troll. Albeit I don't know if it's just a troll or just somebody who's just being facetious with Tim.
Yeah, it's more that I know who Gable is, or I'm pretty sure. I didn't quite hear what you said there, Metal.
Oh, I said I killed a troll once.
Huh.
In a video game, I would imagine, right?
No, in Cameron Park in Waco.
Wait, you kill an actual troll?
Oh yeah. My roommate at the time will back me up. He was there.
There was an actual troll with pointy ears and long nose and all that.
Oh, he was really tall. I couldn't really make out his ears or nose.
I told you, Metal is the troll.
Listen, I'm too nice to have trolls, okay? Like, I'd never cause any drama. People don't want to troll me. It's not fun.
Somebody would argue that Testify and JDA were trolling me when they were doing well, albeit they were doing it even more viciously though.
Yeah, people only want to troll people who feed them, right? If you don't feed the trolls, they go away.
And I stopped feeding Testify altogether and JDA. So
Cheers! Like, oh, sorry, Metal. You will have your own troll soon.
All right. Well, anyways, let's get into it because this one, I believe, Metal might be able to say a little bit more on because I know he's into a bit more with anime. So, Naruto 4-part anime special hit with indefinite delay. Studio Pero using extra time to quote unquote further raise its quality. Article by Nerdigans published back on August 31st.
Oh, what a day.
Unfortunately,
that was not a good day.
Yeah. Unfortunately for fans who were hoping to see the big three airing simultaneously for the first time in 11 years, Studio Pero has sadly announced that they will be delaying their upcoming 4-part Naruto anime special in order to, quote unquote, raise its quality. Studio Pero notified fans their decision to delay the younger Naruto's return to television in a blog post published to the series' official website on August 25th.
29th.
The broadcast of the new 4-week animation celebrating the Naruto anime's 20th anniversary has been postponed from its scheduled air date of September 3rd, 2023, confirmed the studio. As for the reason behind the delay, Studio Pero informed fans, quote, as this project is both a celebration of the anime series' 20th anniversary and the first Naruto anime since Naruto Shippuden ended over 6 years ago, we have decided to take extra time as we strive to further raise its quality, unquote. What do you think that all means, Metal? Because I know you're more into anime.
What I think it means is nonsense. I think they probably need to reallocate the budget to be able to finish it. I don't trust Studio Pierrot with like anything at all with their history. They've actually like basically neutered characters in the past just because they didn't like them or they were trying to push something else. They're the whole reason.
Because some of my favorite, I guess my all-time favorite Yu Yu Hakusho was done by Studio Pierrot. Naruto, which is another good one, was done by Studio Pierrot. Bleach.
Yeah, but Pierrot's also the reason why most people don't like Sakura because they completely neutered her character compared to the manga. Actually, it's also the reason why most people don't like Orihime because the director of Pierrot at the time has even outright said that he basically shipped Ichigo and Rukia together. So he kind of like kept trying to push them and change even Orihime's introduction from the manga in the anime to push Ichigo and Rukia more. I don't really like Pierrot. I like a lot of their shows, but a lot of times there's like, man, I wish you were closer to the manga. Why are you doing this?
That's interesting. We usually talk about how Western companies are like screwing around with the anime. You're just giving us an example of how a Japanese company seems to be screwing around with the anime.
Oh, yeah. I got beef with them.
With the manga.
Yeah. Well, anyways, quote, we deeply apologize to all the fans who were looking forward to the anime, unquote, they continued. Though they were unable to provide an updated release date for the Naruto special, Studio Pero did inform fans that, quote, a revised broadcast schedule will be announced on our official site and social media once it is finalized.
Also, I would like to know, what does raise the quality mean? That is such an ambiguous statement.
Metal, you want to try to answer that?
So in animation, period, but you see it regularly more often in anime this day. There's a lot of shortcuts that are taken to basically save the budget, right? Like recycling frames, old school things that you're used to from older shows. They've got different shortcuts they do now, mostly with computers, but you can usually tell a quality difference when a company is taking these shortcuts or when they spend the extra money and time to pay people to come in and basically fill in every frame instead of going on like 2s or 3s. Maybe they'll go on 1s for certain sequences. The action scenes, like during fights, are where it's the most important to get these effects right. And what I would think, especially knowing Pero, is that in the first draft, they probably crammed or like crunched too much during these action scenes and have to go back and kind of redo them, filling in more frames that were done from before, adding better visual effects for like the energy blasts and stuff like that. That would be my initial guess without knowing anything else.
Uh-huh.
All right, so anyways, moving on with the article here. In their place, the animation house confirmed that, quote, a selection of Naruto Next Generations episodes featuring the best of that series will air in the time slot previously scheduled for the new anime. Unquote. Quote, we sincerely appreciate your understanding as we make every effort to create an anime that lives up to everyone's expectations, unquote, the studio ultimately concluded. Well, knowing what you just said and stuff, Metal, is that one of those things you would say that they're right on with, or are you going to press X to doubt on that?
Oh, I'm probably going to doubt. My bigger question is, does anybody even like Boruto? Like, I know there are people who watch it, but it cannot be as popular as Naruto was, especially because it took them, like, 5 times as long to even get into anything remotely interesting in the series.
Yeah. Well, when it was on Toonami, I did, watch it a bit. I think a big part of the problem is that it's like, just by comparing the two series, right? It's such a distinct difference there. Because in Naruto, the whole thing was, you could get behind Naruto because this underdog type character, and now it's like Naruto and all Naruto and all the all the Konoha 11, all the Leaf 11 have like all grown up and now have kids of their own, but their kids were raised in a time when there wasn't any war, so it's like, and you see like Boruto's now sitting there, got his own version of his own own Game Boy kind of thing. I don't know what they call it in the show, but it's like they actually have like cars and mass transit.
Yeah.
It's like it's such it's almost like, what in the world did they do with this thing?
Yeah, it's like by the same time that they were preparing for the Chunin exams in the original, Boruto was like hunting for Easter eggs. I'm like, why? Why is this what you're doing? They should have just made another war. That's what they should have done from the beginning.
So, we now continue on with the article here. In a further blow to series fans, the delay announcement came just a day after Weekly Shonen Jump revealed the first official details regarding the special's plot. Per a scan of the magazine's September 3rd issue, shared and translated by Twitter user Abdul S17, the specials will see the series' famous Team 7 reunite to take on a new mission, quote unquote. In Kakashi's absence, Team 7 embarks on a mission teased in Weekly Shonen Jump splash page. Quote, surprisingly, Naruto is the temporary team captain. That sounds interesting. As of writing, both Studio Pero and Viz Media have yet to detail any English language release plans for Naruto 4-episode revival. So that will, that one will, of course, they'll be doing the recording at Studio Avalanche out here in LA. Be the LA, obviously with Miley Flanagan and Naruto, if they do it, Yuri Lowenthal, Katie Higgins. But this is supposed to be, I guess, some kind of special to celebrate the upcoming. So there's that article. Let's see, we're at 44 minutes here. So
I will say, on average, though, despite the interference that they can put into storylines sometimes, Hero, on average, cuts less corners than some of their top competitors like Toei does. Because, man,
a lot of the stuff they have, I kind of wish I could find the original Urusei Yatsura from back in the 80s. That one,
I only have it in Japanese.
What was that?
I only have it in Japanese.
Yeah. Private chat. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm back. I wrote that, but you guys, I guess, didn't see it though.
Well, yeah, I didn't see it until now.
So it can be paid not attention to.
Well, we were just so into what we were talking about there that,
Yeah, no problem.
Well, they even did that to the original Urusei Yatsura kind of, right? Because the manga was already very sitcom-y to begin with. There's very few story arcs that continue over multiple chapters in that. But instead of just going with the pacing of the manga, which the newer redo is just following the pacing of the manga directly, they decided to play even more into the sitcom-y nature and just take the stories and restructure them as like episodes of a sitcom. Which, I mean, I guess that's not bad, but I actually enjoy the new one way more.
Yeah. Well, they did also come out with a new version of. They did come out with like a new version of. They did come out with a new version of Urusei Yatsura from like last year.
I said I think they did a much better job in the new version than they did the first time because they were doing that type of stuff the first time. I mean, like I like a lot of the other stuff. They've had most of Takahashi's work. I believe like Inuyasha and Ranma were both done under Perot too, because when they did the anniversary of them, they also pulled all three of them together. They actually screwed up the last half of Ranma one half because of that, but I mean, I think widely they do a good job. They just occasionally make changes that frustrate me, and I have no idea why they decide to make these changes.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, anyways, I think you guys want to do another. You guys want to check out another article here? This one more comics related. Like,
No, might as well.
So this one
of superhero.
Looks like it's the old character Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
Or not old, but
Mel,
the
did
new
you
Miss.
say something?
No.
Okay, I thought I heard a little hitch there. So.
No, it was probably the video that you closed.
Yeah, because it did sound a little bit like Mel's voice in that.
All right, so Marvel actress Iman Vellani says her upcoming Ms. Marvel, the New Mutant comic series, will show readers, quote, why she's such a timeless character.
Wrong.
She was created, what, 15 years ago? She is not a timeless character.
Well, okay, that's independent, right? Something could be a timeless character almost immediately if it has the properties to be timeless. The problem is nobody even jumped on her when she was new.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nobody really cares about her. You know, like,
they've been pushing this version of Miss Marvel for like ever. If I understand, isn't this the Kamala Khan version of Miss Marvel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been trying to push her. Like I know for a fact a number of commentators, including Yellow Flash, have been like all over this. It's like, saying no.
It's as bad as them trying to push, Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel. Nobody.
Well, that's the problem too. Back when she was Miss Marvel, before they ruined the character, Carol was actually my favorite Marvel character, and I would even say that she wasn't a timeless character. I just happened to like her. Most people didn't. She was always like a D-lister.
Yeah, she was great as Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers. Like everybody liked her as Miss Marvel. And then, they tried to make her into Wonder Woman by making her Captain Marvel, and they would have been better keeping her as Miss Marvel.
Well, I think it's worse. They tried to make her into Superman by turning her into Captain Marvel, not even Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Because the thing is, Marvel does not have any really big single solo, however you want to put it, female character. DC's got Wonder Woman, even probably a couple others, even Supergirl. All their women are on a team or something like that.
Well, it's because they never took the time to really establish one. Like you could say maybe Jessica Jones could have went that way at one point in her history. They just never put her in that direction, so it's way too late. But they never established anybody as like a real solo hero who wasn't just like a derivative of another one, right?
Yeah,
because even like She-Hulk, she has solo comics, but she's a derivative of Hulk. Right? It's basically a token character at that point.
Yeah. Maybe the closest they might have come is with Spider-Woman beforehand.
It's still derivative. Even though she's different, she's still, because of the word spider is on her name, everybody's always going to see her as derivative.
Yeah, though that I can agree with for sure.
All right. So, anyways, let's see what they have.
I guess let's get into the article and see what it's
Yeah.
actually all about compared to
Yeah.
us.
Article by Hunter McCoy, published back on August 31st. So, still now a little more than a week behind now. But anyways, according to series author Iman Vellani, her upcoming Marvel Comics series, Ms. Marvel, The New Mutant, will not only explore the titular heroine's new genetic identity, but also show readers, quote, why she's such a timeless character. Again, another example of them really pushing Kamala Khan here, trying to make her, trying to make everybody love her. And
making her into a mutant. And I liked it better, as much as I'm not very fond of the character, I like it better that when she was an Inhuman.
When her powers were cosmic, yeah. I think the problem is, I hate it when anytime somebody tries to say something's iconic, something is timeless or whatever, like when it comes from the company or the workers on it, because you don't get to decide that. The audience gets to decide that. You have no input on whether something is timeless or iconic, and arguing it only makes it worse because people tend to fight back against you trying to press something like that.
Yeah, well, yeah, you might try and make a character that, but
it's funny you say that, Metal, because here's the next paragraph here. In an obvious and tired attempt to foster synergy between typo, comic book and Marvel Cinematic Universe incarnations, the recent events seen within the pages of Zeb Wells' absolutely abysmal run on Amazing Spider-Man Volume 6 and X-Men Hellfire Gala 2023 one-shot have culminated in the reveal that Ms. Marvel is not just an Inhuman, but also an official X-gene carrying mutant.
Okay, so that means she's still an Inhuman and she's got an X-gene? Well, I guess in a sense she would, because she is a Inhuman. That means she has technically powers, but like to be a mutant technically don't they have to be manifesting while you're in puberty, which compared to the Genesis crystal or exogenesis or whatever, you guys know what I mean.
Not necessarily. Well, they can make an excuse. If you're talking about newer stuff, like my knowledge of Marvel is probably goes up to about the 90s, I'd say.
Yeah, but the Inhumans had that the thing that the Terrigen gas there.
The Terrigen mist, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so they can make the excuse because technically she did get her powers when she was experiencing puberty, just later in it. And while most mutants, it's around when they start puberty, some are late bloomers. That's just historically established in Marvel. So that's actually not a problem here. In some cases, it makes more sense because you could even argue that the whole dream sequence she had after the party in her Volume 1 was a fever dream around the time that she got her powers. I think that's stupid, but it's an argument that could be made.
Hey, Rex is in the
chat.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Rex, I sent you the link earlier. It's probably in your Facebook Messenger. If you want to pop in here and join us as we're going over the article here, you're more than welcome to. LJR.
So yeah,
and thank you for the like and share, by the way.
I think it just gets a little convoluted when trying to mix both of those two together.
Well, I think for a while, DC and Marvel continuity have been a bit convoluted with all the stuff.
Yeah, you can have the convoluted stuff of what thing, but I'm just saying for this character in specific, when you try to mix those, the Terrigen Mist and the X gene, it just gets convoluted. He says, thanks, but I've been streaming all day, so I don't think so.
All right. Yeah, so anyway, then I just saw the private chat from Metal as well there. But well, Rex, if you're still here, if you want to just watch and comment, that's fine too. Just feel free to anything that grabs your attention, feel free to comment or ask questions. We'll try to answer them to the best of our ability. So anyways, and I did see that from the private chat, I guess Metal went to grab some dinner there.
Yeah.
Let's see. So
with this retcon.
Oh, I know. I know. I was just trying to decide if I was going to continue or wait till Metal got back. But I guess we can continue and then pop in. I'm sure he still can hear it from the other room or whatever. Hey, so with this retcon being both fairly new and having occurred during the opening salvo of Orca's attack on mutant kind, the young Kamala Khan has not yet had the opportunity to come to terms with her latest power upgrade. It's almost like they figure, okay, if we give her more power, she'll be more likable. It almost sounds like
but okay. Well, although I know it's about to say here probably, and it's like, what are you gonna do for power upgrade? She's stretchy. She's Mrs. Fantastic, basically, but not quite as good as Reed Richards at using her powers.
Yeah. I mean, what are they going to get? Do they want people? I almost get the impression that the versions are so hard. What lengths are they willing to go to get people to like her? Are we going to see a completely new Kamala Khan in comics?
At this point, they'd almost be better putting her on the. Well, no, that'd probably ruin it, but they'd almost be better putting her on the Fantastic Four and replacing her. Reed Richards is a stretchy person, so now she's the stretchy person on the thing, and she's no longer, Miss Marvel. She's Miss Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, I shouldn't say anything. They might listen and get that ridiculous idea.
Oh man, yeah, good point. Right.
Although I'm not sure whether it would be better or not, or worse. Well, they would, of course, make it worse. If you did it right, it might actually work. But however, they'd probably try to make her the big brain that Reed Richards is, and she's nowhere near close.
Yeah. However, thanks to actress Iman Vellani, who many may better know for portraying Ms. Marvel in her solo Disney Plus series and the upcoming The Marvels, Khan will finally confront her new life circumstances within the pages of her new comic book series.
Okay, sorry. Am I getting this right? Is the actress that portrayed her in the TV series actually writing the comic book?
That is 100% correct, Rick.
How stupidly ridiculous.
Oh, did you not know? She also had a writing credit on the show.
No, I didn't. Oh, God. No wonder it's getting even worse. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know whether the actress can actually write. Some people have more than one talent, right? But usually you don't want the actors writing. Well, some of them go into direct. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't prejudge that part.
Yeah. Well, there are a number of, whether dubbing or original voice actors who do go on to direct. I know a lot of the current, anime dub voice directors like Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, Julie Madalena,
Yeah. I know a lot of Star Trek actors, especially the ones that have played major roles. Have went on to direct, various episodes and even other things too.
Well,
So
actually, I find it really funny what Mike you were just saying, because a lot of the bigger directors, I mean, obviously there's some people who went in the direction you said, but if we go back far enough, a lot of them became voice actors because the studios were smaller and they picked up a role as like the director or translator, and then they've stayed a voice actor since then because they did the role very well. But a lot of them didn't do like any acting before that first time. They were hired to do the directing. And people go in both directions.
Well, no, the people I was talking about were voice actors first, then they eventually became, voice.
Yeah, I know the one specifically you're talking about. But if we go far enough back, a lot of the long ones started out as translators or directors, and they picked up a role because the studio was too small, and then they just kind of stayed voice acting since then.
Yeah, I guess my biggest concern is how much does this actress know about the character and all that to even do.
Well, considering who we're dealing with, though, does that even really matter?
What is there to know about this character other than the fact of everything she played in the TV show? Like, one, nobody cares about Miss Marvel in the comic at all. Like, I've read volume 1 and 2 of the original, and I don't even care about Miss Marvel. Okay,
yeah,
it's funny. It's funny how you say.
Yeah,
that.
But I get nobody cares about the character. But even if you're gonna write it, you should write it as if though somebody does care about the character.
Well, what's funny about what you just said there, Metal, right? I pretty much know that Yellow Flash pretty much echoed that same thing. It's like, I know one thing I remember seeing recently, Yellow Flash mentioned that part of the problem with like DC and Marvel is that putting up a whole bunch of shows with characters, nobody really, a lot of these, as you would call them, C and D list characters that nobody gives a flying hoot about,
If anything, wait, actually, if anything, Rick, right, I'm going to say this is better for the character, right? Because what is one of the big problems when people watch a movie or a show or something that they like? Right? They go to the comic, and then the comic is absolutely nothing like the thing they just liked. So by trying to actually bring this comic character that nobody reads otherwise more in line with the show they may have watched on Disney, you're actually doing a better job marketing the character. Now, it's not going to help because nobody watched the show or will read the book. But if they did this for other things, it might have been beneficial. And I can give you a case in point. Do you remember the wildly successful Sabrina the Teenage Witch live action TV show from like the 90s, right?
Yeah.
After that show, they can.
Joan Hart, Caroline Rhea, and can't remember the other girl right now, but
yeah. After that show, because of how popular it was, they actually basically rebooted the Sabrina comic to follow the show, pick up where it stopped, with everything following the canon of the show, and the comic sold better than it had previously because people already knew what was going on.
Yeah, okay. I guess I can get you in that.
People were more connected with that character than previously.
Yeah, I guess it's, like you said, most people don't care about this character, but I'm sure there's a few people beforehand that actually did, and I guess it's trying to make sure you're appeasing both fans at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, especially all more the original. Yeah. So, like I'll admit, I watched the show. I didn't think the show was too bad, but then again, I just watched it as a show. I was like, yeah. I know very little about the character in the comic book, so I'd like to probably keep it that way.
All right. So, anyways, continuing on with the article. Of course, Kamala herself is not the only one to be dealing with new and unknown territory, as this series will also serve as Villani's first foray into the world of comic book writing. Quote, the comic book process was actually pretty intimidating for me. I hold so much reverence for the creative process and the talent behind them. Does anybody want to press X to doubt on that?
No, actually, I'm not going to doubt that one.
No.
Honestly, especially because she has a writing credit and was involved with the character on the show. She probably does actually have some reference for the creative process. Now, whether it have anything to do with the character before she came on is different, but she probably does have esteem for people who take the time to create this stuff and have the talent to write it.
Right. All right. So she recalled while speaking to Marvel in promotion of the series, quote, I felt so pressured to make something good, represent Ms. Marvel in a way that was true to the path paved by Willow Wilson and Sana, in brackets Amanat. That was kind of scary, but I had such a great co-writer, Sabir Perzada, who also worked on the show. Unquote.
So it's somebody she's familiar with working with too. I mean, especially if you're a younger creator, it probably is less intimidating to work with somebody you've already worked with. Again, probably not somebody who should be working on the comic, but I can see why they're partnered together.
Yeah.
To this end, the actress / first-time comic book writer then turned her attentions to the book itself, explaining, quote, I think the story is a really good representation of what Ms. Marvel stands for, what sets her apart from other heroes, why she's such a timeless character. Quote, I wanted to use this opportunity to highlight everything I love about this character and about her comics and her ability as a superhero, unquote, said Villani. Quote, hopefully that does come across in some form or another in our book. Yeah, it's been a huge, wonderful learning process for me, unquote. Wow, look at that. Look at that. So she's coming up out of the bit there and like almost like just shoving away all the other X-Men.
She almost looks like Jean Grey, trying to do a Jean Grey thing there.
Yeah, because you could interpret that like 3 or 4 different ways. It could have been that like maybe they were all drowning and then she used her powers to bust out and she was the first one to escape or something. Could be her fault everyone's drowning. Like there's so many ways you can interpret that. I don't think it's a bad cover, especially when a lot of times covers have like nothing to do with what actually happens in the story. I think overall this might actually be the best thing you could do for a character that nobody likes though. I don't know if these are the people who should be rebooting the character, but actually, probably these people aren't the right people to be rebooting this character, but I feel like the character needs a reboot if people are ever going to actually like her.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can't push her. You just got to say, here's the character, come humbly before people.
People decide if they like her or not try to force her character down their collective throats. Right?
Yeah.
All right, so moving on here to the next part. Speaking to her excitement in being able to chart out Kamala's path as a mutant, the actress then exclaimed, quote, it is a big deal, and how cool that she's a big enough character for this change to matter so much, unquote.
Well, it doesn't matter that much. And she's not that big of a character. Big deal.
Yeah. Quote, the uproar on social media after it was announced was crazy, but so exciting for me that so many people cared. And obviously, they hadn't read the story at this point, so they are not one to judge right now, unquote, she recalled. Quote, but I was so excited because being a mutant is just, I never really read a lot of the X-Men comics. I will say that, unquote, Villani then admit. So there you go right there. She didn't really have much of a history on the characters. Quote, that was really scary for me because I was just deep diving on everything X-Men, finding my favorite characters, Grant Morrison and in brackets Jonathan Hickman's runs were basically my textbooks throughout the entire thing.
Okay, I've heard of Grant Morrison. So did he do a good run? Does anybody know on X-Men?
Okay, his run wasn't bad, but if you're trying to write modern X-Men, that would be the place to go. It's not like if you really want to write good X-Men, you go to Claremont, who actually is coming back for Logan's like anniversary. I think it's his 50th. It's going to be a good run. But if you want write good, you go to Claremont. If you want to write modern, you go to Morrison.
Uh-huh. I've got a bunch of X-Men books, so and I think they're good. They're not too bad, but I'm not sure who wrote them or whatever. So
Well, you can go back through them and find out, right?
yeah, well, not right now.
Well, obviously not right now, but anyways, quote, I think it was just so fun to explore this different side of her because for Kamala, she's already um, dealt with so many different labels, unquote. She detailed, quote, she's been an Avenger, she's been an Inhuman, a champion, Pakistani, Muslim. She starts off thinking being a mutant is just another label to add to the list, and it doesn't really change anything because she's always had the X gene, so it doesn't really matter. Little does she realize that this new suit, the new colors, they bear so much more weight than she was expecting. Unquote.
Yeah, that's because you're dumb enough to change your suit and colors.
It could. I don't. She probably won't do it well. If I was going to do a story like that, the mutants specifically, it's not like other people aren't hated. I mean, the Inhumans aren't particularly liked by regular people either on average. But the X-Men and mutants are kind of seen as like outcasts of society in the Marvel universe, even when they are helping people. So I could see that. But my problem is you'd have to ignore any of her past before that, because if you're already established as a hero, people might kind of treat you a little differently for helping out the X-Men, but you still have all the credit of being a hero before that, so it doesn't really make too much sense.
Yeah.
Like, nobody looks at Spider-Man differently for every time he helps the X-Men out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, when a couple of crossovers during the Spider-Man the animated series from the 90s. There's a two-parter during
with him and Wolverine, because that's a really good part. Yeah,
Peter getting his mutation disease, and then they had another crossover in, like, I think it was Secret Wars, when they brought in Storm to be part of that team. So
yeah.
So later pressed by Marvel for her thoughts on being given the chance, quote, to help define this critical piece of her history, unquote, the actress would reply with the simple declaration, quote, dude, it's powerful, unquote. Quote, it's so cool to be able to contribute to the actual Marvel Comics canon in this next phase for her, because it's a really big deal. She told the publisher, quote, I thought that they were going to give me a cute little miniseries or a one-shot and just, in smaller quotes, go ahead, do your thing. Unsmaller quote. Which does kind of, in some ways, if you think about it, that does seem like what they do, right?
Very often.
They just said, okay, here's a character, do what you want with it, go for it.
Like, I don't want to hit on her. She actually, because she played the character and she worked on the show, she does seem very excited to work on this character. It kind of sucks that she has to work on this character in probably the worst creative climate Marvel's been in, like, maybe ever, right? So she's contributing to trash, even if she ends up having a good idea for the character. But she does seem like somebody who's, like, genuinely excited to work on it, and you really hate to have to, like, play down somebody like that. You would like them to be able to come in and have fun, but it's just not the time.
It's kind of like the way you're arguing. It's almost like she's diving into the can with Oscar the Grouch.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's almost no. It's like they put her in the den of lions.
Well, Rick, do you know what I was reference? I was
yeah, Sesame Street.
Right. Don't know they have that up there in Canada.
Oh yeah. I watch Sesame Street.
Oh, they have that everywhere.
Yeah. Let's see. Quote, it's so cool to be able to contribute to the actual Marvel comic. Oh, wait, we read that part. Let's see. Okay.
And they're
like, no, quote, and smaller quote, no, she's a mutant and you're dealing with the aftermath. In smaller quotes, I was like, oh my, and smaller quotes, oh my God, this is a lot more pressure and it's way too late to back out now. Unquote.
Actually, no, it's not. And B, Marvel's just stupid. Not to take anything away from, this lady. Like, why do you throw somebody like this who has very little experience with this into this thing? Like
throwing her into the deep end to see if she'll sink or swim.
Yeah,
they should have just gave her a miniseries as like an opportunity to maybe reboot the character. Because if the miniseries did well, then you could just go with that version of the character going forward.
Quote, yeah, I'm so well supported, and I've always been fascinated by the comic book making process, unquote. Bellani further detailed of her experience as a fledgling comic book writer. Quote, I would listen to a lot of podcasts. Women of Marvel was a big one. And just seeing it firsthand is like, I can't describe it as anything else than magical. Oh God, she's getting even further on the wrong foot. Women of Marvel.
Well,
I wonder if that includes Kelly Sue DeConnick, who goes, if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll get a.
Well, I think this is also probably just a sign of the direction things have gone, because I think we've talked about, or I've brought this up before, that like, well, especially with the younger and newer writers, a lot of them aren't necessarily trying to push an agenda, but the problem is that things have been pushed for so long that that's just the culture or climate that they're in, and they don't know any different, right? Like, it's already taken effect on them.
Yeah. So, anyways, as we continue on, quote, it's also so surreal, the fact the words that I'm writing, I wrote in my childhood bedroom, and now the people are going to read it in their homes, unquote. She continued, quote, it's a much more personal thing. You're working with a team of barely 10 people compared to a movie where it's like add a couple of zeros to that number. There's something very exciting and equally terrifying about that, because the experience becomes so much more personal between the reader and the creators. I guess I can see
I'm
that.
not sure whether I'd say personal, but it's personal because there are a few people out there that love the character, and you're about to mess with a character that they love.
Mm-hmm. As the interview came to a close, Marvel would ask one. Were you about to say something?
I just said or hate.
Marvel would ask one final question and inquire as to what Bellani was, quote, most excited for readers to see from the series, unquote. Quote, I will say there are a lot of pages that take place in Kamala's dream world, and there are very cool characters that we get to meet within that dream world. And they're just extensions of Kamala's psyche and reflections of who she is. And she doesn't quite even realize what she is capable of as a hero, unquote, opined the actress in reply. Quote, I think that journey that she goes on in her mind is honestly super fascinating, and it's something that I really wanted, unquote, she affirmed to Marvel. Quote, that was the first thing I pitched to editorial is I really want to explore dreams and the psychological effect that a resurrection would have on a 16-year-old kid who has no one to talk to about it, right? Unquote. That's been really fun, and with dreams, you can do literally whatever you want. So there is a lot to play with.
Okay, nobody to talk to. Hello, this is Marvel Universe. Every other person has been resurrected.
Okay, you want to repeat that? I didn't catch that, Rick.
I said nobody to talk to. This is the Marvel Universe. Every other person has been resurrected.
Yeah, just probably
that's a slight exaggeration.
Probably shows her ignorance, right?
Yeah. Well, she's also young. I think she's 21 years old, right? The only thing she's done in her professional career was the Miss Marvel, the short for Quantum Encounters before that. The Marvels will come out, so that's on her thing too. But she hasn't really done anything other than that. But she's a kid who would have grown up throughout the entirety of the MCU being in the public eye. So in many ways, as an actress, as a writer, she's not that much different than the character she played, who was a fan of all of the heroes, and that's how the person she was before she became a hero herself, and even how they horribly tried to write her because a bunch of adults were trying to pretend that they were a teenage fangirl. It might actually feel a little more authentic having her write it, being somebody that.
I mean, Mel, some people may say that statement sounds a little creepy.
To a degree,
a bunch of adults trying to act like they're
trying to write
like they're trying to act. A bunch of adults trying to act like they're a 18-year-old teenage fangirl.
Yeah, but I mean, anytime you're a writer, when you're writing somebody, you are kind of pretending to be them during that time, right? That's just a part of writing. But you might be able to get a little bit more of an authentic experience from somebody who literally grew up like that. That's the cases where people like try to bring in diversity can work. You want to bring your real life experience when you can. If you don't have it, you go and talk to other people and try to bring in their real life experiences, expand your horizon. So that's why it's always stupid to try to say that people have to be a certain way to write something. But there is a certain authenticity when the person did go through a similar experience, right? Mm-hmm. So this could be good for the character, but also at the same time, because she's so young, it's not a surprise that she knows nothing about the universe other than like the movies and maybe if she's picked up a comic or something. Not a lot of the old stuff is readily available if you don't go like surfing back end websites or digging through like the long box at a comic store or half price books or something.
But see, the thing is, she is quote unquote talking to Marvel. Marvel's trying to get her on this project. Marvel could, supply her with a bunch of
Marvel
stuff.
Should. I'm not arguing against that.
Yeah. All right. So anyways, let's continue on here. In brackets, series artist Adam Gorham draws incredible stuff in those pages. So I'm very excited for people to see his work, unquote. For those interested in checking out Marvel's latest attempt to entice MCU fans to buy their comics, the first issue of Ms. Marvel, The New Mutant, is now on sale. So this article was, of course, from August 31st.
Yeah. She should have just got a miniseries. Like, I think that would have been the best way to do it. Give her, like, a 5 to 12, somewhere between there. Like, sure, 12 a year, but a single volume would still be a miniseries. It's not a run, right? 5 to 12 issue. It might be called
maxi series at 12.
Maybe they might. But just a 5 to 12 issue series. Give her a chance. If people like that, they could be like, okay, cool, this is the direction we're going with Miss Marvel forward. But throwing her into the deep end like this is just bad on Marvel. You know, like,
Yeah.
it's just bad on them as a production company, as a publishing house.
It shows
It'd
you
be
how
sad.
far behind I am on a lot of this stuff when I have
Yeah.
to do this. When I have to like click the load more, 2 or 3.
Yeah. Well, in some ways, I know you want to go over some of these articles, but maybe in some ways you just shouldn't worry about it either, too. But obviously, it's up to you.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Well,
I was to say,
I've been covering a lot of the One Piece stuff from just before. You know, I may start skipping those now because we're kind of a little past that. But, you know, because a lot of it's just redundancy going. But
and not that these 2 articles that you read today weren't, good.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were completely new articles. I hadn't,
yeah.
really read any. Actually, there is one that caught my eye, and maybe I'll just shift ahead to that one and see if you guys want to read along with me on it.
And just remember, at about probably 1:45, I'm probably going to take off.
We may or may not do one. I think we will do, because this one, if it's like a release type one, then it probably shouldn't go as long as like what we just did.
Yeah.
Well, while you go grab that, I'm gonna go put my plate in the sink. I'll be
Well,
right back.
I found what I was looking for here.
Or you can load up while he's doing that.
Yeah, because I myself have been watching the first 2 seasons of this show, and now they're talking about 13, the Rising of the Shield Hero.
I haven't seen it yet. I know it sounded interesting when I've heard about it, though.
Well, when it first came out back in like 2019, it got a lot of like news
controversy.
Well, yeah, it was controversial because basically the first episode, the main character was
accused of something he didn't do.
Right. Accused of a very nasty thing.
I'm back.
Yeah. So I decided to just jump ahead to this article, and then I just will jump from here, I guess, when I start tomorrow. But this one I don't think should take us quite as long, so we'll probably try to do this as quickly as possible here. All right, so Naofumi and crew begin their quest to free enslaved demi-humans in latest trailer for The Rising of the Shield Hero Season 3. And this one I've been kind of watching and following, so I figured it'd be a good one. And I figured this one is... and Metal, I'm sure you heard some of the controversy around this show.
Yeah, I know most of the controversy around the show. It's not one that I follow personally. I watched like the first season. It really just didn't stick with me. I didn't dislike it, but it just wasn't compelling enough to continue following. But yeah, the controversy around it was pretty dumb at the time.
Well, it was basically him getting accused of essaying one of the other characters.
Yeah.
And he didn't do it. It's like, basically, it's the old Pontius Pilate's wife, or Joseph and all that. Anyways, okay, so let's get into this. It seems slavery. Okay, so let me just go back and okay. Now, Fumi and crew begin their quest to free enslaved demi-humans in latest trailer for Rising of the Shield Hero Season 3. Article by Nerdicans, published September 5th. All right, so it seems slavery is the hot topic. This current anime season is coming off the heels of. Current anime season as coming off the heels of Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnations premiere of a slave trade centric episode. The Rising of the Shield Hero has dropped a new trailer teasing Naofumi's upcoming mission to liberate the Zeltrobe Nation's scores of currently shackled demi-humans. Premiering during a special August 27th live stream hosted by the Rising of the Shield Hero light novel publisher Media Factory in celebration of the series' 10th anniversary, this new trailer gives audiences their first glimpse at Kinema Citrus's animated take on the original light novel's quote-unquote rebuilding arc. Having recently acquired the territory to establish a new demi-human sanctuary thanks to his defeat of the spirit turtle, the trailer opens with troubled Naofumi, who is voiced in the Japanese by Kaito Ishikawa, who provided the voice of Sakuta Asugawa in Rascal Does Not Dream of a Sister Venturing Out. Now, interesting thing about the English voice actor, originally it was Billy Cammett with season 1, till he passed away from colon cancer at age 35. And then he was replaced with Stephen Fu. So, little trivia tidbit for you guys there. Forced to confront the reality that the refuge may be less than prepared to endure an incoming onslaught from the guardian beast Phoenix. Unfortunately for Naofumi, the threats to his sanctuary are not just apocalyptic. Shortly after establishing the safe haven, Naofumi enlists the aid of slave trader Bolucas, who is voiced in the Japanese by Kenichi Ogata, who was Gran Torino in My Hero Academia. In seeking out, purchasing, and returning any enslaved residents from Raftalias, voiced in the Japanese by Asami Seto, who portrayed Nobara Kugisaki in Jujutsu Kaisen, hometown of Lorelona, whose borders now fall under Naofumi's jurisdiction to their rightful homes. However, Bolycus soon reveals that this task will be easier said than done. Thanks to word of Naofumi's liberation mission spreading across the world, prices for Lorelona natives have skyrocketed across Zelotobol's notorious underground slave market. Unwilling to let the demi-human suffering continue in perpetuity, Naofumi, Raftalia, Philo, who is voiced by Rina Hidaka in the Japanese, who also provided the voice of Noun Yuno for a Mado Seihei no Slave, and Rishia Ivy Red, voiced in the Japanese by Natsuko Hara, who is Mania in Made in Abyss, respond to this news by setting out to Zeltob to liberate the slaves themselves. Once there, in need of the necessary funds to purchase the numerous Lorelonans before the next auction, Naofumi, Raftalia, and Philo proceed to bet on themselves and enter a team combat tournament, registering under the name Team Rock Valley, held within the country's underground coliseum. As the trailer comes to a close, audiences are met with a brief glimpse of Full, voiced in the Japanese by Kohei Amasaki, who provided the voice of Kotaro Kitagawa in My Clueless First Friend, and Atla Theon, voiced in the Japanese by Konomi Ohara, who provided the voice of Arona in Blue Archive, the animation, a pair of white tiger demi-human siblings. The latter, suffering from a terminal genetic disorder, has left her blind and unable to walk, who the team will encounter during their time in the underground tournament. So that's them right there. In its final shot, the trailer showcases the anime debut of Orca. Orca Therianthrope Sadina, who is voiced in the anime by Ami Koshimizu, who provided the voice of Holo in Spice and Wolf, Merchant Meets the Wise Wolf. Briefly mentioned in The Rising of the Shield Hero, Season 1, Episode 15, this drunkard is an integral part of Nafumi's mission, serving as his guide throughout the Colosseum tournament, during which, as seen in the trailer's final battle sequence, she'll have an intense reunion with her long-lost friend Riftalia. The Rising of the Shield Hero takes up his shield once more this October, the same day simulcast for English-speaking fans, set to be provided by Crunchyroll. All right, so there we go. That's it for the articles, I guess, for tonight. I moved ahead quite a bit. What did you guys have to? And I guess Rick stepped out.
Yep, he
Rick
did.
said he'll be right back. All right. So, and I know Rick will have to leave pretty soon here. So, what we're going to do, we're going to start to wrap up now. So, I'm going to go ahead and go through the this day in each history segment now.
Okay.
Yeah. Or in this case, this weekend in each history, which is which of course, so we're going to take a look back at this weekend in each history for September 9th and 10th of 2020 from 2023. Let's take a look back at this weekend in each history. So let me just quickly go 2010, 2013, and 2008. And actually, all three items are actually from yesterday's date this week. So here we go. First off, we're going to head back to 2008, as it were. 15 years ago today. As on this date, 15 years ago today, so there was a series of computer animated films that was produced by Jim Henson Company called Unstable Fables. And on this date, 15 years ago, the Tortoise and Hare direct to DVD film was released on this date back in 2008. So 15 years ago today, Tortoise vs. Hare from Unstable Fables, produced by the Jim Henson Company, was released on this date 15 years ago today. Or yesterday's date, 15 years ago. 15 years ago, yesterday. Hey, Rick, you're back.
Yeah, I am.
Moving ahead to 2010 from yesterday. So 13 years ago yesterday. 13 years ago yesterday, back in 2010. The 10th issue of Daredevil from Marvel's Marvel Knights imprints was released on newsstands yesterday. 13 years ago, back in 2010, the story was Shadowland Part 3, written by Andy Diggle, art by Marco Cicciotto, lettered by Joe Caramagna. Matthew Hollingsworth did the coloring. So 13 years ago yesterday, the 510th issue of Daredevil was released on newsstands.
Cool.
And finally, 10 years ago yesterday, on yesterday's date, 10 years ago, as soon as I can pull it up here. The WWE would hold its Monday Night Raw event from the Air Canada Centre in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. That's your neck of the woods, Rick, right?
Yeah.
And this was the go home Raw before Night of Champions that week. The main event saw Daniel Bryan defeat Dean Ambrose, who had Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins in his corner. RVD defeated Ryback by DQ. Let's see. Randy Orton defeated Goldust. Brie Bella, Naomi, and Natalia defeated Oksana, Alicia Fox, and Layla. The late, great Bray Wyatt defeated Dolph Ziggler. And to open up the show, Kofi Kingston defeated Curtis Axel via DQ. So on this date, 10 10 years ago, or on yesterday's date 10 years ago, to be held at the Monday Night Raw event from the Air Canada Center. Well, with that, I thank everybody for being here. We're cutting it
nothing
short
for
because I know.
today's date.
So before we go, would you guys? We'll start with Rick. You want to do a quick outro? I know I didn't give you guys a chance to share your links. If you want to do that as well, Rick, you want to share? Do an outro.
Sure.
Share any
Well, I am Rick Piper. I have a channel on YouTube that hopefully I'll be using for the next month and a half, hopefully longer. Try and make it happen by going, subscribing, and watching some stuff so I can start making some money. And there's nothing for today's date for in the retrospect.
Not that I found. No, I mean it's like again, it's like I just leapfrog everything. So when I do that,
I just thought I'd ask. Anyways, on to Metal.
All right, Metal. You want to promote anything? Share any links or anything like that?
Oh yeah, sure. I'm the Metal. I do a little of everything. But one of the things I've been doing most frequently these days is streaming over on the Vomitorium, where we have our semi-weekly show that talks about games, films. Actually, recently we had a whole topic section about a comic because of Chris Claremont coming back for a 5-issue miniseries on Logan's anniversary. When there is cool things to talk about comics, I do like to talk about comics. But you can find that there. And I also stream games, and I'm trying to fill the gap with other stuff in between, too. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
All right. So, anyways, and I thank you guys for suggesting we move ahead, too, because that one article I had been, and rather than wait around for it, I guess I just figured I'd do that. So I thank you guys for that as well. Anyways, with that, I thank everyone for being here, and I hope everybody enjoyed the show. And of course, don't forget, we'll be back here tomorrow with more Niche News. Also, this Friday, Tim Olson will be back with me this Friday. We'll be going over comics that went on sale in December of 1939 from Dell Comics. Be looking over Super Comics Volume 1, Issue 20, and Crackerjack Bunnies Volume 1, Issue 20. So I hope to see everybody back here then. I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. So until then, bye!